What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracing.online.com, and it's Bristol weekend with the Bass Pro Shops NRA Night Race. It's the final race of the first round of this year's playoffs. Got Martin Truex Jr. on the pole this week, Denny Hamlin starting second, Joey Logano third, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson rounding out the top five, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski all starting top 10. Some solid place differential plays. We got Kurt Busch starting 15th, Ross Chastain starting 17th, thanks to non-playoff drivers having to start behind the playoff drivers. A little further back, Ryan Preece starting 27th, Chris Buescher 25th, Cory Lejoy 31st, Bubba Wallace 28th. So we got some solid place differential plays, but when it comes to Bristol, this is a 500-lap race. This is about nailing those dominators. Typically, we see about 2 to 3 big dominators, I'd say, at Bristol. But there can be 4 or 5 drivers that lead 30+ laps in this race, and fastest laps can definitely be spread out a bit. Not like what we see at like Talladega and Daytona, but it's definitely not like the leader isn't guaranteed to get those fastest laps because you know what? They're going to be in traffic. One, they're going to hit traffic first. And they're going to hit traffic quick, and everybody's going to be in traffic all the time. So it allows those fastest laps to get really spread out among drivers. But still, the fastest cars are going to be the ones that really grab those on Saturday night. So sportsbooks say that Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson are the 2 favorites to win this race, and my algorithm absolutely agrees with that. It's got Kyle Larson in first, projected to win. Chase Elliott second, Denny Hamlin third, Kyle Busch fourth, Kevin Harvick fifth. These top 4, though, are very close. You look at the power index. Yes, Larson has a bit of an advantage over the rest, but Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, you could throw a blanket over them. That's how close they are. Harvick 5th, Blaney 6th, Logano 7th, Kurt Busch 8th, Truex 9th. That's noteworthy because of how bad Martin Truex Jr. is at this track, and Keselowski 10th. We'll get more into Martin Truex Jr. a little bit later. When it comes to Bristol, so we haven't had any races here. We had one race here at Bristol earlier this year, and it was the dirt race. So you can't really count that. It was on dirt, and a lot of crazy stuff happened. Larson wrecked. A lot of cars wrecked out, Larson in particular. And Daniel Suarez almost led the most laps. Logano ended up winning it. It wasn't a very... I wouldn't put much stock into the data from that race, is what I'm saying. What we can do is look at other steep tracks this season. So let's take a look at the steep tracks from this year. So we're looking at Homestead, we're looking at the 2 Darlington races, and we're looking at Dover. In terms of the most comparable, I'd put Dover at the top of the list, most comparable to Bristol, and then Homestead, and then, Darlington's a bit further down. So I definitely weigh Dover more than I would the other 2, and then I'd rank Homestead, or I'd weigh Homestead second best. But still, let's take a look at these 4 races. We have 4 races. Again, 2 at Darlington, so these numbers can be a bit swayed there. But Kyle Larson, best average finish. Kevin Harvick, second best. Hamlin, Truex, Radick with the 5th best average finish. William Byron, Ross Chastain strong as well on these racetracks. That's when it comes to average finish. When we're looking at average running position, Kyle Larson, average running position at 3.9. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, all there at 10.1 or below. Also got Kurt Busch up there at 10.4. Fastest laps. So what's interesting is with these, really only Kyle Larson has had 2 good races when it comes to fastest laps. So he had 122 fastest laps at Dover, and he had 86 fastest laps in the second Darlington race. Other than that, pretty much the drivers that have any significant number of fastest laps pretty much only have 1 high spike race in fastest laps. Other than Martin Truex Jr., I guess I'm kind of... There's a couple drivers that have somewhat high spikes with the fastest laps over these races, but Larson is the only one that has super high spikes. That's the best way to put it. So Martin Truex Jr. is second best at fastest laps on this track type this year. 28 at Homestead, 62 in the first Darlington race, and 26 in the second Darlington race. It's worth noting he only had 8 in the Dover race, which, like I said, is the most comparable track to Bristol. Kurt Busch, third best. He had 30 in that second Darlington race and 31 at Homestead. So Alex Bowman, he had 61 at Dover, in which he won that race. So noteworthy there. And yeah, Hamlin, Elliott. But really, Kyle Larson has 237, and the next best is Martin Truex Jr. at 124. Laps led, Kyle Larson, 424. Martin Truex Jr., 302. So a lot of Martin Truex Jr.'s is from that Darlington race. So he led 248 laps in that first Darlington race. So 248 out of 302 is a pretty good chunk. Whereas Kyle Larson, again, 2 races. So he led 263 laps at Dover and 156 laps in the second Darlington race. So that's what's gotten him up there. Denny Hamlin, he led 146 laps in the second Darlington race out of his 153 total over these 4 races. William Byron was, he led 102 in the first Homestead race, or in the Homestead race, and then 21 at Dover. So, Alex Bowman, he led all 98 of his laps led came at that Dover race that he won. So, definitely worth looking into those numbers a lot this weekend, just because, we have old Bristol data, but at the same time, it's from a full year ago or more. So it's a little outdated. It's like we still know who's going to be good here, but I personally always like looking at very relevant, the most recent data with these race cars and these drivers. So looking back let's take a look at the 2020 Bristol races. Again, Kyle Larson, he was suspended last year. Or didn't have a ride last year. I guess he was suspended, wasn't he? Anyway, he didn't race the 2 Bristol races, so the other guys got a bit of a break. Kyle Busch, best average finish at 3.0. Erik Jones, 4.0. Kevin Harvick, 6.0. Austin Dillon, 9.0. Ryan Preece, 10.5. Kurt Busch, 11.0. Only a few drivers had two really good races. Best average running position, Chase Elliott actually had the best average running position in 2020 at Bristol at 4.4. Kevin Harvick, 5.5. Kyle Busch, 6.5. Joey Logano, 6.9. That's nice. Eric Almirola at 8.7. Denny Hamlin, 11.2. Erik Jones, 11.6. When it comes to fastest laps, Kyle Busch led the way, 112. Kevin Harvick had 102. Chase Elliott had 80. Ryan Blaney had 50. Erik Jones had 49. Again, he was in, or not again, but he was in that 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. So, definitely noteworthy with that equipment downgrade. Keselowski had 48, but he also led almost 200 laps. So, if you've listened to my videos before, I like to compare fastest laps to laps led, and I like to see that gap not be so wide. That tells me that the only reason he had fastest laps is probably because he was out front so much. Same with Denny Hamlin with 132 fastest laps and only 132 laps led and only 42 fastest laps. Going back to 2017 and 2018 Bristol. So we're skipping 2019 if you listen to this week's episode of Stacking Denny's, our podcast. If you haven't, make sure you do. If not, you'll know why we skipped 2019. So looking at 2017, 2018, 4 races there. Matt Kenseth had the best average finish. He only ran 2 races. Kyle Larson was second best at 4.8. Jimmy Johnson, there's a lot of, not older, but retired or moved on drivers on this list. Alex Bowman, 6.5, only 2 races started. Kevin Harvick, 7.0. Joey Logano, 7.8. Clint Boyer, 8.8. Average running position, Kyle Larson, 4.4. Kyle Larson is really good here if you haven't realized yet. Joey Logano, 7.7. Jimmy Johnson, 8.1. Erik Jones, 8.7. Kevin Harvick, 10.0. Kyle Busch, 10.5. When it comes to fastest laps over those 4 races, Kyle Larson leading the way again. 235 fastest laps. Kyle Busch, 214 fastest laps. We've got Truex up there at 123 fastest laps. And then Erik Jones and Kevin Harvick both had 112. Again, Erik Jones was in that Joe Gibbs Racing car. And finally, it's always worth looking at the 750 horsepower package numbers this season. Best average finish in the 750 horsepower. So that's looking at, let me pull the list real quick. We're looking at Phoenix, Martinsville, Darlington, Dover, Richmond, Nashville, Loudon, Darlington 2, and Richmond 2. So 9 races total. Best average finish, Kyle Larson, 5.6. Denny Hamlin, 6.1. Joey Logano, 6.2. Truex at 7.4. Kevin Harvick at 8.3. Christopher Bell at 9.9. When it comes to average running position, Denny Hamlin leads the way at 4.2. He's been very strong in this package this year. Joey Logano, 7.6. Kyle Larson, 7.8. Kevin Harvick, 8.0. Ryan Blaney, 8.2. Chase Elliott, 8.9. And Martin Truex Jr. at 9.1. Fastest laps, Kyle Larson, number 1. 473 fastest laps. Denny Hamlin, 370 fastest laps. And then Martin Truex Jr. at 310. Then it's a pretty decent gap down to Christopher Bell with the 4th most fastest laps in this package this year. I will note that most of those came last week at Richmond when he had 74 fastest laps at Richmond last week. That was the most of anyone at Richmond last week, and I'm pretty sure it's because he got off sequence so much on tires, I believe. I could be wrong, but that stuck out like a sore thumb when I went and pulled the loop data for that race. Christopher Bell had the most fastest laps. Denny Hamlin was second best at 7.2. Truex had 43. So we expected Truex and Hamlin to get those fastest laps, but Christopher Bell, definitely stuck out there and had a great car at Richmond and is now in the car and we'll get to this later, but is now in the car for Joe Gibbs Racing that Erik Jones put up 49 fastest laps in the 2 races last year, which was 5th highest, and 112 fastest laps from 2017 to 2018, which was 4th highest. And that's Erik Jones. That's not Christopher Bell. So definitely a lot of upside with Christopher Bell this weekend. But, so we know who's strong in this package. 3 of the top 4 when it comes to fastest laps are Joe Gibbs Racing cars, and 3 of the top 6 are Hendrick cars. Hendrick, Joe Gibbs Racing. It's not those 2 definitely have this package figured out. Looking further, like I said, this track compares, I believe, most to Dover as far as the races that we've ran this season. So let's take a look at the loop data from Dover this year. Best green flag speed in that race was Kyle Larson. Remember, this was a race that Hendrick was 1, 2, 3, 4 and just had the best cars all day. Kyle Larson had the best green flag speed. Chase Elliott was 2nd. Alex Bowman 3rd. William Byron 4th. Denny Hamlin 5th. A lot of the same names. Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, all in the top 10. When it came to average running position, Kyle Larson, 1.47, just absolutely ridiculous. William Byron came in at 2nd. Kevin Harvick 3rd. Chase Elliott tied with Denny Hamlin for 4th. Alex Bowman at 5.69, nice. And he ended up winning the race. Blaney, Logano, Kez, Austin Dillon rounding out the top 10 at Dover when it comes to average running position. Let's just get right into the driver breakdown, huh? So Kyle Busch, highest priced driver this week at $11,500. It's very difficult to go against Kyle Busch at Bristol Motor Speedway. The guy is incredible at this racetrack, and that's kind of putting it nicely. Pulling up this driver averages quick so I can get quick references. But 8-time winner at Bristol, constant top 5 threat. He has finished inside the top 4 in 6 of the last 7 races here. That includes 3 wins. That includes a second place finish last year. He led 100 plus laps in both races last year. Look at these. I mean, the guy has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 races at Bristol that he's led 100 or more laps. Just ridiculous, and has pretty much finished first or second in every single one of those races, except here he finished fourth. He finished eighth here last year, and then this he wrecked and finished 39th, but still led 256 laps. So Kyle Busch, he starts ninth. He has place differential potential. He has dominator potential. What more could you want? You can't ask for more. Like, Kyle Busch is a great play in DraftKings this week, in fantasy NASCAR overall. The only thing that I can the only possible argument that I can make against Kyle Busch is that he has not been good in this 750 package this year, and that he hasn't been good at similar tracks this year. So he finished 10th at Homestead, 3rd in the first Darlington race. He wrecked in the second Darlington race, and he finished 27th at Dover. Obviously, those aren't great races. I don't even remember what happened at Dover. That's probably an issue. But, Kyle Busch, he's a great play. You can't go wrong with a guy starting ninth that could easily win this race. So, Kyle Busch, pencil him in. Yes, great play. Kyle Larson, same thing. Everything points to this being a dominating race for Kyle Larson. I could see him leading 200-plus laps on Saturday night and putting up a ton of fastest laps as well. When we look at similar tracks this year, Kyle Larson, 4th or better in every single one. Most fastest laps, most laps led. He starts 5th. It's not going to take him long to get to the lead. He was dominant at this track before he came to Hendrick. He's now at Hendrick. He has the best car he's ever had. We've been talking about this all year. This is setting up to be a great race for Kyle Larson. He's not racing for anything. He can just go out and try to win. He's already locked into the next round. The only thing he's worried about is winning this race and getting more playoff points. So you can either look at that one or two ways. It's a little riskier, or there's more upside there for him to just absolutely dominate it. So I see no reason to go against Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson this week. I think the big question is whether you put them both in the same lineup and how often you do that if you're putting up a bunch of lineups. But these two are head and shoulders above everybody else. You look at the 6 races that we talked about earlier, the 2017, 2018, and 2020 seasons at Bristol Motor Speedway. Kyle Larson's averaging 58.8 fastest laps. Kyle Busch is averaging 54.3 fastest laps. And then there's a huge gap down to Kevin Harvick at 35. So you can't go wrong with the two Kyles this week. Denny Hamlin, he starts second. He's $10,800. I could see him being a tournament play. He's won here at Bristol, I think twice. Memory serves me well. Yep. 2 wins. He's finished top 5 basically in a third of his starts. He led 131 laps here last year. You look specifically at the August/September races. First in 2019, again, not super comparable. 14th, third. It's all going to come down to, you definitely can't go Kyle Busch, Larson, and Hamlin in a lineup. So I think if you're going, well, you can, but you really have to punt. I mean, you have to come down here and grab like a Justin Haley, if you want to get Priest, and then go like Yaley. Like, you could do that, but you're really relying on Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin finishing 1, 2, 3 and also dominating, which can certainly happen, but it's, I think there's better ways to build a lineup. So when it comes to Denny Hamlin, I think you're using him as a pivot off of either Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson in a lineup, unless you're, purposely fading both in that lineup. But, Denny Hamlin has upside. I mean, there's no reason to think he can't lead this race early. I mean, he's starting second. It's him and Truex, and Truex's record isn't good here. Like I said, we'll get to Trex in a little bit. But, Denny Hamlin should run in the top 5 all night. It's just going to depend how many Dominator points he gets. And looking at Denny Hamlin over over those 6 races, we're going to be referencing that a lot. So those 6 races of 2017, 2018, 2020, 6 races at Dover or at Bristol. Denny Hamlin's max fastest laps, his highest number of fastest laps in a single race was 30. His average is 13. It's just, you don't get the upside with Denny Hamlin as you do with Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch. Plus, he's starting further up. Yes, he could. Like, I think you need exposure to him, and if you're mass entering. But if you're putting them side by side against Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, then Denny Hamlin is clearly inferior. But I won't be super surprised if he does have. I have him projected as like my 3rd or 4th highest dominator, I think. So, or 3rd or 4th most likely dominator on Saturday night. Chase Elliott, speaking of a guy that could dominate this race, I really like how Chase Elliott's running right now. He's also ran really well here at Bristol. Remember, he won the All-Star race last year here at Bristol. He has the best career average finish at Bristol among active drivers, surprisingly enough. And he also knows how to get his way to the front. So he's led 23, you can see the numbers here, 23, 88, 33, 38, 112. If he's running this well again this weekend as he did at Richmond and he did, as he's done the past month, I'd say, if Chase Elliott can get the lead, go out there and lead 100 laps, finish top 5, I like him. I don't even mind combining, again, you could combine him with Larson and Kyle Busch, but I like Chase Elliott more of a pivot than Denny Hamlin. I think Chase Elliott has better upside. The last 3 fall races here, Chase has finished 7th, 5th, and 3rd. And as far as record here at Bristol last year, 80 fastest laps, 111 laps led, and he got 39 and 41 in the 2 Bristol races here last year when it came to fastest laps. So that's something you definitely like to see. You like to see consistency out of, especially like a guy like Chase Elliott who doesn't put up a ton of fastest laps. Plus, like I said, Dover's the most comparable track, in my opinion, that we've raced at this year to Bristol, and Chase Elliott put up 59 fastest laps there. So definitely like the higher dominator potential with Chase Elliott as opposed to Denny Hamlin as pivots off of Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson, and comes with a little bit more place differential and a lower price. So definitely like that. Joey Logano, he just doesn't get a ton of dominator points even at Bristol. So when we're taking a look at Logano here, he gets about, last year he got 19 and 13 fastest laps. That's not awful, but this is a 500 lap race, and we're probably looking at like 75 laps of caution. That's basically what we're averaging over the last, 4 or 5 years, I think. If I remember right. I did the math earlier today, but or I looked that up earlier today. But Logano, never really, even the 4 races from 2017 and 2018, he had 61 fastest laps. So averaging about 15 a race. Do I think he can finish top 5? Yes, I do. Does he have the upside to get a ton of dominator points? I don't see it. You got Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, even Martin Truex Jr., and even Denny Hamlin that I think are more likely to dominate than Logano. So at $10,200, I don't love Logano by any means. I see the upside. I can see him finishing top 5. I just don't see the dominator upside to waste that $10,200. You're at that point. I think you're relying on these other guys like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. in this same kind of price range to have issues, and I don't like to have that when it comes to my DFS lineups. Martin Truex Jr. is on the pole. He's $9,900. The weird thing about Martin Truex Jr. is he sucks at Bristol when it comes to finishing, and that is a key point here. Martin Truex Jr., 20.4 average finish, which is just, it's almost unbelievable how bad he is at finishing this. He has 3 top 10s in 30 starts, 2 top 5s. That's it. And those 2 top 5s were in 2011 and 2012. He finished 8th in 2017. And other than that, look at these. They're not just bad finishes. They're garbage. So starting on the pole, I could see him being a tournament play. That's what I'm really seeing here out of Martin Truex Jr. because I think he's going to have a very fast car, and I think a lot of people are going to shy away from taking him in DraftKings because of his record here. But Truex has always had upside at Bristol. He had 89 fastest laps in this race right here, 2017, when he led 116. Who's to say with that first starting spot that Truex can't go out there and lead 116 laps again and put up 50, 60 fastest laps? That makes it a hell of a lot easier for him to get into the optimal lineup, even if he slides back and finishes 10th. Makes it a lot easier, especially at this $9,900 salary. So I think Truex is a definite tournament play, as much as I hate to say it, as much as his finishing position is just so awful at this racetrack. And I know, like, I'm fully prepared for people to come after me next week and say, Truex sucked, like he always does at Bristol, you're an idiot. But you know what? Martin Trex Jr. starting on the pole at all he needs is a good finish, and who's to say it can't happen? Like, I don't think he finishes bad at Bristol because he's an awful driver here. I think a big part of it is it's kind of like his super speedway racing. He finds himself in more trouble more often than not. That's the best way I can put that. So I see the upside with Martin Truex Jr. I think a lot of people are going to notice and see the downside, and I get it. Trust me. If I have one entry in a single entry contest, I'm not putting Martin Truex Jr. on there. I might. That's actually probably more of the scenario to put Martin Truex Jr. on there. Sorry, I misspoke there. Yeah. So I don't see an issue with going Martin Truex Jr. in a single entry and then being slightly overweight in like big tournaments, just because he's on the pole. But now I'm breaking this down in real time for you guys. So pole sitters are more likely to get ownership share in big tournaments just because they're on the pole, and there's a lot of people that don't understand it. That's why pole sitters get so much ownership share at super speedways when they shouldn't. So in single entry contests, especially high dollar single entry contests, Truex is going to be extremely low owned. Probably clocking in at that 10% range. So that's where I wouldn't mind being overweight or having Truex is single entry contests. There we go. Maybe not going too wild elsewhere, but I could see it working out for Truex. I just can. We look at the similar tracks to Bristol this year, and Truex top 4 in 3 of the 4, 26 or more fastest laps in 3 of the 4. Biggest issue with me is he was not good at Dover at all, and like I said, that's a very comparable track when it comes with Bristol and Dover are probably the two most comparable steep tracks. So, but 2017, 2018, he did fine as far as fastest laps. So at Dover. So, yeah, I don't know. I see the upside with Truex. Long-winded answer. I see the upside. But I'm fully prepared for him to disappoint yet again this weekend. Kurt Busch, he starts 15th. He's $9,600. This guy has, as fast as those Ganassi cars, I could see Kurt Busch winning this weekend at Bristol. So I think you need to have a good amount of, not to mention he's really good here. So that's the main thing. Kurt Busch is really good here. He's starting 15th. Do I love the price on DraftKings? No. But when you don't love the price, that means the driver's probably going to go under-owned, especially if they have the history that Kurt Busch does, but it's a little shaky. I could definitely see, Kurt Busch being in the optimal this week at that price. 9th or better in 5 of the last 7 Bristol races. His other races were 15th and 22nd. He did win here back in 2018. He only led 24 laps, so there's not a lot of dominator upside, I don't think, with Kurt Busch. But at the same time, You look at similar tracks. He had 31 fastest laps this year at Homestead. He had 30 in the second Darlington race. He had 11 at Dover. Bristol 2020, Kurt Busch had... That's wrong one. Kurt Busch had 32 fastest laps in those two races, so average of 16. 2017, 2018, Kurt Busch 45. I just really like how those Ganassi cars are racing right now. Kurt Busch has no business, challenging for top fives or challenging for top threes at Darlington and at Richmond, but he was doing he had a plenty good enough car to do that. So definitely don't think Kurt Busch is a bad play this week at $9,600 on DraftKings. Ryan Blaney starts 7th, $9,400. It's interesting with Ryan Blaney because there's so much upside there. Like, he's had very good runs here at Bristol. He's also had a lot of bad luck at Bristol. You could say that this track owes him. Looking at 2017, 2018, he had 69 fastest laps. Nice. Going to 2020, he had 50, which was 4th most. So I think it's going to come down to whether he can lead or not on Saturday night. When we look at the similar tracks to Bristol this year, Ryan Blaney was 8th at Darlington, 12th at Dover. I see the upside with Blaney. I get it. His record here, he's led 100 or more laps in a couple races here. He has the second most laps led here among non-winning drivers behind Kyle Larson. Second most laps led. He's led 60 or more in 4 of the last 6 Bristol races. I just don't. Plus, they're running better. I'm trying to make a case for being overweight on Blaney. I just don't love the price. With the if he was starting like 12th, I'd like it better because there'd be much better place differential upside. But Ryan Blaney has one finish better than 7th in his career at Bristol. I see the upside. Trust me, I see the upside. I just don't love Blaney. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying that Blaney's an all-star pick at $9,400. Will I have Blaney in my lineups? Yes. I every time we come to Bristol, I always have more. I always have a good chunk of Blaney, but it's not a complete slam dunk in my opinion, if that makes sense. William Byron, I think, could be a little bit of a sleeper pick this weekend. I know he doesn't have a great record here, but looking at similar tracks this year, Byron was 4th at Darlington. He was 4th at Dover. He won at Homestead. Doesn't put up many fastest laps, but starting 14th, $9,200. Now for the bad news, Byron's just not great at Bristol and never really has been. Career best finish of 8th came in May of last year. You just don't really see top 5 upside with him. But starting, 14th, if he could somehow pull off a top 5, it's going to be tough with that $9,200. I wish he was in the mid 8s, but yeah, I don't particularly hate William Byron as much as some other people might. I think he does have decent upside with the place differential, but I don't like the price. I don't think he gets there with that price. It's probably the best way for me to put it. Kevin Harvick, he starts 8th. He's $9,000. I want to like Harvick. I love the paint scheme this week. That Subway paint scheme is awesome. Similar, he just doesn't. He's not getting fastest laps this year. So looking at the steep tracks this year, he finished 5th at Homestead, 6th at Darlington, 5th at Darlington 2, 6th at Dover. That's it's about as consistent as you can get. His highest amount of fastest laps over those 4 races is 14. Does he have a good record here at Bristol when it comes to fastest laps? Yes, he does. Looking last year, he had the second most, 2017, 2018, He had 112 over those 4 races. That's a pretty solid amount. You add those in, going starting 8th, finishing 5th, and getting 30 fastest laps. It's going to get him right there on the fringe, I think, of being in the optimal. It's hard. I think it's hard to fit Harvick into a lineup, but I definitely don't hate the play. He's solid here at Bristol. I think he challenges for a top 5. Just with how that team is running, they're like right there, top 5. Like they've made a little bit of progress to get to top 5. Harvick was about a 6th or 7th place car for most of the season. I think they're right there at the top 5. He won here last September. I don't see Harvick coming back and doing that again, but never say never. I think he's a solid top 10 play with top 5 upside. I'm not seeing a ton of Dominator upside. So yeah, Christopher Bell, we talked about him earlier. Starting 6th, he's $8,800. He just needs those Dominator points, man. And it's looking at Bristol 2020. Christopher Bell had 16, and that was in the Levine car. So that's noteworthy. Let me pull this up really quick. 15 of them were in the second race. I think he wrecked out of the first one, if I remember right. Christopher Bell is definitely a tournament play. So he had his fastest laps in this race where he started 18th, was fifth in stage 1. That's where he grabbed 15 fastest laps. He only had 1 fastest lap here in 2020. But again, Erik Jones was so good in this race car at not only finishing but also getting fastest laps. Erik Jones, 49 fastest laps in the 2 2020 races. 25 and 24. That's pretty damn consistent. Going back to 2017, 2018, Erik Jones, 112 fastest laps over 4 races. 24, 20, or 59, 24, and 5. And let's take a look at that race where he got 5. It was the first one of 2018, and looks like he had issues. He finished 26th. So, do you trust Christopher Bell enough to get more than 20? I think he's going to need like 40 fastest laps, 30 or 40 fastest laps. It won't surprise me if he gets them, but I don't think it's guaranteed. Again, Christopher Bell, definitely a tournament play. Starting 6th, you're going to need him to get up there and lead and get fastest laps. Definitely see him as a tournament play in my book at $8,800. It's just that's a tough salary to feel super comfortable about, but with the rule of DFS, there's a lot of lineups that you don't feel comfortable about, and they're the ones that win you the most money. So, Brad Keselowski starting 10th, $8,600. I don't know what to think after last week. Like, that is your best track type. That is Penske's best track type, and you finished 13th, and you're just junk all day. You never want to be a conspiracy theorist and say that Keselowski's getting junk equipment, but it sure seems like it. So, when it comes to Bristol, yeah, Kes has won here before, but he finishes a lot worse than he runs. You have to like these numbers of 82, 115, 91, and 40 laps led over the last 4 races. Don't forget, though, that he started on the pole in both of them last year. So, big contributing factor to these laps led is that fact. But still, he led 40. He led 67 here in 2018. I think at starting 10th at $8,600, I think Kes is going to be higher owned than he should be. in DFS. And I haven't ran projections when it comes to ownership yet, but I don't love Keselowski this week. I would, even last year when he led all those laps, 115 laps led and then 82 in the 2 races last year, he put up 32 fastest laps in 16, so 48 between the two, despite leading almost 200 laps. So starting 10th, my algorithm has him finishing about 10th. That doesn't get you what you need at $8,600 unless he gets Dominator points. So another driver I don't love. There's so many drivers you can make a case for this week because it's Bristol, but just not a lot that you love. Matt DiBenedetto, I think he's overpriced. He's $8,400. He starts 19th. We've definitely seen him run well. I mean, he almost freaking won here back in 2019. Other than that, though, 19th, 31st, 12th, 22nd, 21st, 26th, 19th, 17th. I'm just not seeing I'm not seeing the top 7 upside I think you need out of DiBenedetto this week. So looking at similar tracks to Bristol this year, Matty D was 28th at Homestead, 19th at Darlington, 23rd at Darlington 2, and 24th at Dover. I know a lot of people flash back to that second place finish, but I'm just not seeing the upside from DiBenedetto this year for him to get there. Even the 750 horsepower races, one top 10. I don't see the upside at $8,400. I don't see the upside. That's just, I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. Austin Dillon starts 18th. He's $8,200. He's also running very well. So Dillon finished 6th and 12th last year. Is usually about, a mid-teens driver. Definitely going to need to finish that top 8 to pay off here at $8,200. I like him as a pivot off of Bowman. I think Bowman's going to get a lot of exposure here. I'm not seeing the full upside out of Austin Dillon. I think he's going to be about a mid-teens driver, finish about 13th. And I think that's where my projections have him as well. They have him at about 13th. So again, $8,200, just not seeing the upside. Could be wrong. I mean, you need exposure if you're putting in a ton of lineups, but I don't see Austin Dillon with a surprise top 5 on Saturday night. Alex Bowman, he starts 11th. He's $8,000 and he's underpriced, and that means he's probably going to be over-owned. I mean, you have to like that he has upside for sure. Alex Bowman had 21 fastest laps in the fall Bristol race here last year. Looking at, so he had 25 over the 2 races. Looking at 2017, 2018, Bowman 2 races, 29 fastest laps. I think that's his upside for me. The only thing that you have to remember is that he won and had a great car at Dover. So if you're relying heavily on Dover, it's gonna bring you toward Alex Bowman at $8,000 in DraftKings. After Darlington, Alex Bowman's dead to me. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And if it kills me this week in DFS, then so be it. But yeah, I can see him making it at 8,000 with a top 5 finish if this is a 2 Dominator race. So that's where I would roster Alex Bowman, is a 2 Dom build of a Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman build, which I think that's my optimal this week. Yeah, it is. So according to my projections, Alex Bowman is in the optimal. Take that for what it's worth. But I don't love him. He's also dead to me. Anyway, Ross Chastain starts 17th. He's $7,800. Obviously, the guy's driving out of his mind right now. He, I don't like. It's Ross Chastain, so a track like Bristol and how aggressive he is, it definitely kind of hurts him. But we've never seen him here in a good car. Obviously, they're running a lot better now, Ganassi is. But, you go back to his premium motorsports days. He finished 26th, 29th, 26th. Those are good finishes for premium motorsports. Those are shit fucking cars. So you have to like the upside with Chastain. Starting 17th, he finishes top 5. That's definitely going to get him close, I believe. Especially if he puts up some fastest laps, which he hasn't done a lot this year. He's put up a ton of fastest laps. So I think you're relying a little bit too much on place differential, but it could definitely work out, Starting six spots behind Bowman, I think there's about the same finishing potential between these two, same finishing upside. So I'd probably go down to Chastain if I was given the two. But again, Alex Bowman and my opinions toward him are a little bit different. Anyway, Tyler Radick, he starts 13th. He's $7,600. Bristol's a good track for Tyler Radick. Finished 4th here last year. Wrecked in the first race. In that second race, he finished 4th and he had 19 fastest laps. At similar tracks this year, Radick finished 2nd at Homestead. He finished 8th at Dover. Barely any fastest laps, though, and that's what concerns me. He just doesn't put up fastest laps. Even in Darlington, where where he rides the rim, just doesn't put up fastest laps. So I don't see that upside. So at $7,600, you're really relying on him to pull out surprise fastest laps, and I just don't see it happening. So starting 13th and even getting a top 5, I don't think that gets him in the optimal without the fastest laps. And I'm just not seeing it out of Radick. I'd much rather go to Bubba Wallace at $7,500 starting 28th because, you look at, let's just compare. This is a very interesting section here. So you got Bowman, Chastain, Radick, and Bubba Wallace, which, let me do something real quick. So I'm just looking at, there we go. So for Bubba Wallace to finish 15th, taking Dominator points out of the equation, he gets 41 DraftKings points. Radick needs to finish 8th to get 41 DraftKings points. Bowman needs to finish 7th to get 41 DraftKings points. Chastain needs to finish 10th. Would you rather have the Bubba Wallace place differential upside, or would you rather have the potential Dominator upside with one of those other guys? Is the question. And it's, like I said, this area, these drivers right here are going to. I wish I knew what ownership was going to be with them. But with that being said, I think Bubba's a safe play. I just don't think the upside. I don't. There's no. If I'm trying to build a lineup that could have some surprise dominators in it, I don't think Bubba Wallace is a surprise dominator. And with him starting 28th, that should bump up his ownership percentage. So I'd rather be on the other side of it and be lower on him, despite a pretty decent actually record here at Bristol. So Bubba finished 10th last year. He finished 22nd. He's got a 14th here. He's got a 16th. So yeah, there's definitely upside. I mean, there's definitely place differential upside, but I would still rather go with like a Chastain or a Bowman, maybe even a Radick, and then hope that the ownership is higher on Bubba, and then if he has issues, that's where you can really gain on people. Eric Almirola, next up, he starts 12th. He's $7,300. He ran well. He had good average running position here. last year. Two races last year, average running position 8.7. Wrecked in the first race. Also started top 10 in both. Is Almirola a tournament play? That'd probably be the best way to describe it. Is he a good tournament play? No. It's probably the best way to describe it. I'm not seeing the upside with Almirola here, starting 12th at $7,300, and I'm not really willing to take a risk on that, to be honest with you. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he starts 23rd, and he is $7,200. I love Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this week. Top 20s in all four similar races this year. No fastest laps to speak of, but in those 6 races before that we mentioned, when it comes to Bristol, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. averages 16.2. That doesn't seem like a lot, but that's as many as Brad Keselowski. That's 3 less than Ryan Blaney. That's 10 less than Martin Truex Jr. That's 1 more than Joey Logano. That's 3 more almost than Denny Hamlin. Just saying. I was on the Stenhouse train last week at Richmond. It did not work out, but Ricky has legitimate upside here at Bristol. It's one of his better tracks. He's struggled here recently with wrecks. 40th, 34th, 33rd, 33rd, 24th. Now look before that. 4th, 14th, 9th, 2nd, 16th, 21st, 4th, 6th, 12th, 18th, 16th. Solid runs out of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I really like him as a tournament play. $7,200, 23rd, like the upside. Ryan Newman, he had another good finish last week, if I remember right. 20th. That's decent for Newman. But they bumped his salary up to $7,000, and starting 24th, it's not, I don't love it. I think on a good day, he's like a 15th place car right now. So, starting 24th, there's upside. $7,000, just not seeing it. I don't like it. Cole Custer, he starts 26th. He is $6,900. I'd consider him a tournament play despite the place differential upside. He did finish 10th at Dover, so that's a little noteworthy. And he was 11th in the second Darlington race. As far as his record here at Bristol specifically, Custer 23rd and 35th in the 2 races last year. He's going to need to be better than that. I think this is one of those races that nobody really looks at Cole Custer, though. And if he can just stay on the lead lap or close to the lead lap and then just survive, that's where I see him being a decent tournament play at $6,900. But if I'm in this price range, I'm probably going to Chris Buescher. My projections love Chris Buescher. Starting 25th, $6,700. Looking at similar tracks this year, Chris Buescher's been really good. He was 19th at Homestead. If you remember, he dominated early part of that race. 9th at both Darlington races. He was 17th at Dover. When you take a look at Bristol last year, Chris Buescher, average finish of 15.5 over those 2 races. You go back to 2017 and 2018. Chris Buescher did not have good finishes, but 8th, 23rd, 17th, 22nd, 19th over the last 5 races. Again, he's starting back in 25th. Top 15, top 17 in a lot of the races recently over the last few months. So I definitely like Chris Buescher. I think he could be actually a cash play. That's how much my projections like him. So I don't hate Chris Buescher at all. Starting 25th, I think he can finish top 15. You don't need him to do a lot when he's at $6,700. Daniel Suarez is another guy I really like this week. I think he has a ton of upside. He's starting 21st. He's $6,600. Bristol's just a good track for Daniel Suarez. So taking a look at his record here. He was in that Junk Gaunt Brothers car last year. He still finished 18th and 26th. Those are good runs for that car. Before that, 8th, 18th, 11th, 15th, 18th. Only downside of Suarez is he's not running great lately. You know, he finished 13th at Darlington, but not great. 17th at Richmond, but, a lot of bad finishes in here. Still, though, you go to similar tracks this year. Daniel Suarez, 15th at Homestead, 13th in the second Darlington race, 9th at Dover. I really like Daniel Suarez this week. He's going to be in quite a bit of my lineups. Eric Jones, he starts 22nd, and he's $6,400. I can't trust Eric Jones this year at all. I just can't do it. Yeah. I think he's about 20th place car. Does that get it done in DraftKings at $6,400? Possibly, depending on if Suarez wrecks out, if Busch wrecks out, stuff like that happening. But I just don't love Eric Jones. I don't see the upside. I think he's about a 20th place car. That's it. Chase Briscoe, he starts 20th. He's $6,200. I can understand why people would like Chase Briscoe this week. He was very good here in the Xfinity Series. He's running better now. 16th, 19th, 11th over 3 of the last 4 races. Decent races at the road courses before that. He's definitely a tournament play. I think he's going to be a popular tournament play, though, just because people are going to latch on to his Xfinity record. He did finish 11th in the first Darlington race. He was 19th in the second Darlington race. He finished 18th at Homestead. I don't like rookies at Bristol in the Cup Series, though, and that's my main issue with Chase Briscoe this week. So if he's going to be a popular tournament play this week, I'd rather be underweight on him. Ryan Preece, I really like a lot. $6,000, starting 27th. I think he has teens finishing upside. You take a look at his record here at Bristol, and it's just gotten better each time. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen this week, but 9th, 12th, and 18th over the last 3 races. Even his bad race here in the first Bristol start that he had, he finished 25th. Similar tracks this year. Ryan Preece was 21st at Homestead. He was 25th at Darlington, 12th at Darlington 2, and 18th at Dover. 18th at Dover is noteworthy. I think Ryan Preece, I bet him to finish top 20 this week. I think he can do it. I love the value here at $6,000. Yeah, I love Ryan Preece this week. I really do. David Starr, 38th is where he starts. He's $5,800. They priced him up again. Just why do you keep doing this? This car's a shitbox. The only way he's moving up is through attrition. No, I don't like it at all. Cory Lejoy is probably going to be a pretty popular pick. We saw last week why you probably shouldn't put all your eggs into the Cory Lejoy basket. They had a lot of issues. They finished 29th. It's without issues this week. I think Cory Lejoy is a top 25 car. He finished 26th at Dover, 22nd and 15th at Darlington. His record here at Bristol, though, isn't great by any means. That's probably putting it nicely. 32nd, 33rd, 24th, 34th, 34th. Yeah, I'd rather be underweight on LaJoy. You still need exposure, but I'd rather be underweight is kind of the way I'm looking at it. Michael McDowell starts 16th, $5,400. I could talk myself into taking McDowell in a single entry lineup, but this car has been such junk lately. And, even looking at, he had a good Homestead race, remember, early in the season, but 25th or worse than the other 3 comparable tracks. He had a good run. I think he ran well here at Dover, why do I keep calling this Dover? Here at Bristol last year, 10th and 14th in the 2 races. He survived. That's the best way you can put it. What I like about McDowell as far as upside this week is his price, getting off his Chalk LaJoy, and the starting spot, honestly. The reason I like the starting spot is because it's less of a chance for him to go a lap down. I think it's easier for him to stay on the lead lap there starting 16th. So keep that in mind. If McDowell can stay on the lead lap and finish mid-teens, it's going to be, he could end up outscoring these other guys that are good place differential plays. So Michael McDowell definitely, I think, a tournament play on Saturday night. J.J. Ellie starting 35th, $5,300. He's probably going to finish around 30th. A little bit of attrition. He might get into the 20s. I think he's a safe play like that. Not an all-star. Like, he's not priced. I don't think he's priced low enough to be a punt, but, still an option. Anthony Alfredo, like I said, I don't like rookies here at Bristol. I almost called it Dover again. But Alfredo has finished 28th or better in all 4 of the steep track races this year. All he needs to do is move up a little bit. And, that $5,200, it doesn't take long to get into the great, for it to pay off with the lineup, and being able to stack these studs up here into a lineup. So I don't hate Alfredo. I don't like it, though, because he's a rookie and, just generally running not great lately. But still, a top 25 finish probably gets Alfredo into a good lineup, depending on who the dominators are. Justin Haley starts 29th, $5,100. It's about where he's going to finish. So you're relying on attrition. He finished 26th at Homestead, 28th at Darlington, and 25th at Darlington 2. I've made a couple lineups with Justin Haley just because the price fits. That's about where it's at. As far as the back marker cars like BJ McLeod, James Davison, Garrett Smithley, Josh Bilicki, Quinn Houff, the only way that they are moving up is if there is attrition and if there's wrecks. So I don't hate punting this week by any means, especially with Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson priced where they are. But I wouldn't go with a punt down here to get, to try and fit Radick into your lineup instead of Buescher or something like that. Like, there's just not the upside there, I don't think, to do that. So that's what I think about. Obviously, it's Bristol. Anything can happen. There can be a bunch of wrecks, and it's all about survival then, and that opens the door for these punt options to be possible. But I'm not really loving any punt builds this week. About the lowest I'll go is Justin Haley, to be honest with you. So that's going to wrap it up. Like I said, I didn't say my optimal this week. So according to my projections, the optimal lineup is going to be Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, Daniel Suarez, and Cory Lejoy. Don't hate it. Don't particularly love it. I really like Priest. I like going off of I don't mind going like Priest, and then you could possibly get Radick there, but cut off Lejoy to get off that chalk, maybe grab Michael McDowell, and then you can come up and grab a Ross Chastain. I like that kind of build a little bit better, but that's just me. Again, you can always go, just Kyle Larson or just Kyle Busch, but according to my projections, those two are going to be the two to beat. They're going to be the main two that dominate, and if that's the case, you're going to need them both in your lineup because, like I said, there's a ton of laps this weekend. So good luck to you on Saturday night. It's our final Saturday night race of the season, and I'll talk to you next week when it comes to Las Vegas and the start of round 2 of the playoffs. See ya.